Hello and welcome back. This is part 2 of the Working with Live Drums little mini series that I'm doing. We did the kick and snare in the last video, so now we're going to look at toms. So let me quickly play you two tom hits I've got here, one rack tom, one floor tom. You'll hear how much cymbal is in them and why that toms are so tricky. So this is what we started with, all cymbals, and this is what we ended with. So let me play those two again, because they were quite quick, so you can really see what I mean. So, before, after. Okay, so let's dig into what we've got. So we have a rack tom or a tom 1 and tom 2, which is the floor tom. They were recorded quite well. Naturally with toms though, there's so much bleed going into them. The first thing that I did was cut the tom hits and allow enough decay. Not too much decay because you're just going to get cymbals. But if you can cut the decay where you hear the tom, the low end build up, and then something else takes its focus in the song, you can get away with cutting the toms quite short like I have here, which is sometimes the only thing you can really do. If I show you this, if we pull this region out a bit and play it by itself, you'll see why I had to cut them. Listen to this. Again, like the snare mic, that's almost the whole drum sound in one mic. So I will cut here just before this next drum hit, which is probably a snare or a tom from the other tom. You get rid of that, you get as much out of the tom decay as you can. And I know that the next hit is going to be another tom, so that tom no longer needs to ring out. And it's the best you can hope for. So beyond that, actually I'm actually going to trim that down a little bit more. Yep. So beyond that, you can tell there's a lot of cymbal in it. How on earth do you get your toms bright enough to cut through guitars when you can't boost any top end because all you have is cymbals? This is the trick. So down here, you should see I have a tom 1 attack track. And these two are copies of each other that are going to work together. So on the first one, I've got a Pro Q3 here, where I'm pulling out all this top end. So it sounds really dull. I'm just getting the body and the as you can see here, some of the bottom end of the tom. Cutting out some of that sort of cardboardy mid here, which you'll always do with toms when mixing. So this is what it sounds like with that EQ applied by itself. It's just all boom and body. That's where the attack track comes in. What I have here is a super tight gate, similar to in the last video. The range is at full, the threshold's at full, the release is as tight as it can be. So I just want that initial hit of the tom. So hopefully we can isolate that little hit and then everything else is gone. So you don't hear that cymbal. And you've got to be quite clever here with the filters. So get rid of all the low end because you do not need the low end in this. You've got that from the other track. Get away with as much top end as you can before the cymbals start to get in the way. So as you can see here, I've rolled that off to 350. And I've boosted some of the, as a shelf, I've boosted everything from 1.5 kilohertz. And then that'll be stopped at about 8 by this filter. And then after that, to make it even tighter, I've got another noise gate from Logic. I'm literally making that super, super quick as well. So the attack track by itself sounds like this. Yeah, but that is just what I want, just that little attack hit. There's a bit of spurt of cymbal, can't really get away from that, but it's so short, it should give you brightness of the tom without just chucking cymbals all over the tom tracks and ruining them. So let's hear them together. Sounds a little strange by itself, but in the context of the mix, that will cut through. In fact, you could even turn that attack track even tighter. So pull that release in, try it even tighter than that. And then, so you've got the natural performance of the toms, you've got the natural decay in the room and everything that the room reacts to toms quite dramatically. So samples can sound a bit awkward by themselves. So you do have the benefit of using a real tom, and then you can, of course, stick a sample on top to give you the extra stuff that you need. So that's why we've got all three here. I've got this tom sample from Drumforge. So the rack tom altogether sounds like a real tom. And if you remember where we started from with all of that cymbal, you'd never been able to get them bright enough to cut through the guitars. But that is a bright, full spectrum tom. So we do the same thing with the floor tom as well. Pro Q3, pretty much the same EQ. Pulling out a bit more of the mids here because I want more of the low end of the tom. Pulling out all the high end like before. Then we've copied it for a tom attack track. Super tight gate. See, full range, full threshold, quick release as possible. And then, yeah, the noise gate set to be in super tight as well. And again, a floor tom sample from Drumforge. So altogether, you get this. You got natural toms in there. You got the samples to make sure that they're heard and reinforced. Best of both worlds. So if we hear that with the whole drums, you should hear the toms properly. Let's hear that again. So yeah, they're in there. They're full, they're thick. They're helped by the overheads. And they sound real. They definitely sound real. Okay, so if I play you the drums, bass, and guitars just quickly, so I won't be playing any of the actual song, you'll see that the drums do manage to cut through the guitars. And they sound really real, actually. Better than a sample by itself, I think, in this instance with the toms. If I was to show you that same mix, but I'll take away the attack tracks, I'll take away the EQs and the samples, so just to bin the toms, let's see if you can still hear them as clearly. Yeah, they're dead in the background. I think probably you hear most of them from the overheads themselves rather than the actual tom tracks. I'll play that again so you can compare with everything in. Yeah, it's just such a tighter sound, and you get the stereo spread from having the tom tracks mic'd, and you get the impact from that too. It's pretty important. Okay, so that's actually it for toms. My advice would be to go through the whole song, cut every single hit. It's painstaking. You can do a strip silence thing, but there's usually too much bleed in tom tracks for it to work properly. Get all that mess and all that out of the way, and then you can do the tom attack trick, and then add some samples in there. So that was a quick one. I didn't want to stick it on the end of the kick and snare video because I felt like there was so much in that video already. You can go back and watch the kick and snare video. I'll link it in the description. There'll be a part 3 where I'll go through the rooms, the overheads, and then the drum bus itself. And remember, if you want your next song mixed by me, head over to terrybeckleyrecording.com. Hit me up via the contact form. I will get back to you. The link is in the description. I'll see you at the next one.